Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Market Snapshot series. My name is Rufas Kamau, Markets Analyst at FX Pesa. So today is an interesting day. We have quite a quiet day on the economic calendar front. Of course, we're expecting out of volatility coming in the evening, especially after we get the FOMC meeting minutes. And at the same time, the market will be looking forward to a couple of earnings, and these could be the key highlight for the day. So once you join in, can just say hi on the live comment section, and these will confirm that everything is working just fine. So morning, Casper. Can see someone calling themselves Respect. Good morning. Morning, Christopher. Can see Milliam, Muiti and Molenga. I'm doing great, Edward. Thank you. So let's get things started. So we'll be starting right away, and we'll start by focusing first on the economic calendar front and try to understand the key highlights or expectations for the day. So I'll be starting by sharing my screen. And as you can see, it's largely a quiet week. So today being Tuesday, the 21st of November, then we had quite a number of data points coming in early in the morning. One of them was New Zealand trade balance, which came in as an improvement from the previous reading, but missed expectations. We had a speech from RBA Governor Bullock, and of course, the MPC meeting minutes from Australia. So we also had credit card spending from New Zealand, which came in at negative 2.9%, which basically indicates quite a huge drop on the year. Then we had the Swiss trade balance, which came in at 4.6 billion, way lower than the previous reading, and of course, lower than the expectation. And of course, the only green highlight for the day has been the UK's public sector net borrowing, which came in at 14 billion, which is higher than the previous reading of 13.7. Of course, it missed the expectations of 16.8 billion. So going forward, we'll be having quite a number of data points. One, monetary policy report hearings at 1:15 p.m. from the UK. Two, we'll be getting inflation data from Canada, and this will be happening at 4:30 p.m. Then later on, we'll be having existing home sales in the US at 6 p.m. ECB President Lagarde is set to present a speech at 7 p.m. And the most important data point for the day will be the FOMC meeting minutes. So that's the key highlight for today. And out of volatility could be coming from the FOMC meeting minutes, which means we expect heightened volatility in US dollar pairs, gold, silver, oil, as well as US equity indices. So on the inflation data coming from Canada, we'll be looking at the CPI month over month, which is expected to come in at 0.1% compared to the previous reading, which was negative 0.1%. So a slight increase in prices. So median CPI year over year is expected to drop to 3.6%, whereas trim CPI is also expected to drop to the same number. So common CPI is expected to drop to 4.3%, compared to the previous reading of 4.4%. So a larger than expected drop in inflation, meaning that if these numbers come in slower than expected, then we could be expecting quite a number of interpretations. One of them will be that the Bank of Canada may have reached its peak interest rates and may be looking to cut interest rates into next year. And as a result of that, we could be seeing a weakening Canadian dollar against other pairs. On the other hand, if inflation happens to jump towards the upper side, then in that case, it would be inconsistent with the Bank of Canada's expectations. And as a result of that, we should be expecting to see a much stronger dollar, where investors could be betting on continued further rate hikes. So with that in mind, we can scan through some of the key highlights for the week. One of them is from the earnings calendar. I noticed that Monday we didn't have any major announcements besides Zoom video communications, which beat earnings, leading to an acceleration in the stock price. So today we have quite a number of companies reporting, including Abercrombie and Fitch, but the key highlight for the day will be Nvidia, which is set to be reporting earnings at market close. So this should be after 11 p.m. And of course, we know that you can't trade after the market has closed. So in this case, the biggest bet will probably be on the Nasdaq. So if we happen to see blown out earnings or upbeat earnings for Nvidia, then in that case, it's likely to propel the stock higher, and the potential could also be impacting the Nasdaq stock. So if there's better than expected earnings from Nvidia, then it might make sense to go long on the Nasdaq 100 index. So other noteworthy earnings that we'll be expecting for the day will be analog devices, Autodesk, Baidu, Best Buy, Burlington Stores, Careless, and Dick's Sporting Goods, Dicom, Guess, Hibbert, there will be HP, Jack in the Box, Jacobs Engineering, Coles, Lois, Medtronic, Nordstrom, and Urban Outfitters. So of course, it's a busy day on the earnings front. So we should be expecting to see some good volatility, especially after we get into the New York session. So besides this, I don't think there's any other major news. Trying to scan some of the highlights, and part of the articles I've been going through. One of them is a key indicator in the cannabis industry in the US. The biggest pot distributor in California has collapsed. The company's name is HERBL or Herbal. The company is private, it's not publicly traded, but the fact that it has collapsed, it basically means that we should be expecting industry-wide weakness. So we could be seeing some further weakness in cannabis stocks as we proceed with the week. So trying to see if there's another key highlight in the market. So clearly, the highlights of the shortened week are Tuesday afternoon's Fed minutes. The minutes are expected to provide insight into the Federal Reserve's thinking on future of interest rates. So another key thing that I almost missed is that this is expected to be a very short week, especially for US dollar traders, mainly because on Thursday, we will be having a bank holiday in the US, meaning that the stock market will be closed as the Americans celebrate their Thanksgiving Day. So US banks will be closed in observance of Thanksgiving Day. So we will be expecting zero activity in the equities and commodities markets. So most Forex brokers remain open for every holiday except Christmas and New Year's Day. So stock markets and banks have slightly different holiday schedules. So in this case, zero activity in the stocks and commodities front, as well as our futures, basically means that we'll be trading currencies, but then there'll be low participation from Americans. And in this case, we expect the markets to be having low volatility. So this is the typical day where you don't see much movement in the markets. And perhaps you might consider looking at other markets that does not include the US dollar, and of course, focusing on other sessions such as the Sydney, the Tokyo, as well as the London session. But then as per the New York session, we didn't expect much volatility. So then on Friday, we'll be having a half day of trading. So the day after Thanksgiving is also considered to be a holiday, so the markets don't trade the full day. So we also expect some extremely low volatility on Friday with limited trading in equities as well as commodities and futures markets. So in this case, low volatility on Friday and Thursday, which means the highest chance of you making profit from a big move remain on today, which is Tuesday, and of course tomorrow, Wednesday. And we have quite a number of announcements, including unemployment claims, and of course, University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment Survey, and a speech from Bank of Canada Governor Mark Lem at 7:30 p.m. So besides that, there's the issue of Palantir earnings. So Palantir has been one of the top performers this year, with the stock more than tripling within this year, that is since the beginning of the year. Only a few other stocks have managed to triple this year, including Nvidia. So trying to get the earnings. So driving that demand, Amazon delivered 236% earnings growth in the third quarter, while Palantir's 600% earnings per share growth continues to propel Palantir stock to a fresh breakout and beyond. Building on Friday's 3.6% jump, Palantir has added another 4.5% heading into the close. So you can see this is more than 8% between Friday last week and Monday, which is yesterday. So we're expecting to continue seeing this stock continue rising, especially after the AI boom continues to extend towards the end of the year. So it's one of the stocks you might consider, though past performance doesn't always guarantee future performance, but it has been one of the key highlight performance for the year. So besides this, I don't think there's anything else to be focused on. Just scanning through this real quick. So this just a report on what has been happening. So last one is crude oil. We have an update on crude oil. So the West Texas Intermediate and Brent crude oil are gaining $2 per barrel today. This was yesterday on Monday, ahead of this weekend's OPEC Plus meeting, where the group is expected to cut production. So at the same time, the US is ramping up its production, leaving muddled medium-term supply outlook against expectations of falling demand in 2024. So here we are seeing two contrasting news. So on one side, we're expecting that once the OPEC Plus countries meet over the weekend, we're expecting them to extend further oil output cuts, which has the impact of pushing prices higher. But then, at the same time, we know that the US has been running its SPR drive or Strategic Petroleum Reserve drive. And in this case, in order to try and refill this SPR, the US is looking to achieve low oil prices. But then the OPEC is not agreeing with the US. It has been cutting oil output, and this is not consistent with the US expectations. So as a way of fixing this, the US has been ramping up its production, meaning that it has been pushing its private companies to keep pumping more oil, and perhaps this will stabilize oil prices. So both WTI is short for West Texas Intermediate, which is what we are trading when we trade US oil. And of course, Brent oil from the UK, or what we call UK oil, they could rally further from here after breaking out of their bearish channels. So both the WTI and Brent gained $2 per barrel on Monday. And of course, there's this anticipation in the OPEC Plus decision over the weekend. So the group is expected to consider additional production cuts in the wake of a $20 drop in oil prices over the last 2 months. So if OPEC Plus does not decide to scale back drilling yet again, it could prove to be a near-term bullish catalyst for crude oil prices. But long-term questions remain about whether all members will adhere to new limits and how the limits can be enforced for any non-compliant nations. So outside the OPEC, traders are also tracking oil rigs in the US, which ticked higher for the first time in 3 weeks, and refiner production data, which is on track to rise by more than 550K barrels per day this week. Well, the supply picture remains mixed between rising US production and the potential for cuts from OPEC. Negative economic data continues to point to falling demand heading into 2024, keeping both contracts under pressure. So we all know that a good indicator for oil demand is economic activity. So when you see increased economic activity, then it basically implies a higher oil demand, which has the effect of pushing prices higher. But then if we are seeing economies that are slowing down, then the overall interpretation is that there's weak oil demand, and as a result of that, we tend to see lower prices. So knowing that, and now looking at the charts, it's quite impressive how the trends have been consistent. And of course, if you have any questions, feel free to type them in the comment section, and I'll be responding as we progress. What next? Pound USD, we have hit the target of yesterday's prediction. This is a good comment. Yes, yesterday we talked about pound USD and we looked at the U-shaped pattern. And I believe by now we have already achieved what we call a cup and a handle pattern. So for the dollar index, there has been a consistent drop downwards. So it's not as aggressive as last week, where we saw such a huge drop in the dollar index before making some recovery. So on Friday and Monday, it has been a continuous drop, and I expect the same to continue today. So as the dollar continues weakening, what we are seeing here for pound USD is a cup and a handle pattern. For those who are not familiar with the pattern, it basically forms the shape of a cup, and once it gets to the support, you get this pullback and the market completes the handle. So whenever you see such a pattern, it's usually a continuation pattern, and it's suggestive that the market may continue along that direction. So in that case, you expect a continuation of the same price, and as a result, we might see some further upside momentum in the pound USD. So I'm trying to get a tool here. So just a moment. Yes. So this was the initial move that we saw. Then the market forms a cup and a handle formation. So from here, we expect to see some even further upside, similar to the original move that we saw here. So the market makes a leg, then a cup, a handle, which is a continuation pattern. Then after breaking towards the upper side, we expect some further upside momentum. So one of the ways of estimating how far the price could go is by looking at the depth of the cup. So the depth of the cup is the deepest part in the U-shaped pattern. So in this case, the deepest part in the U-shaped pattern starts from here and of course rises to the top of the pattern here. So if you're trading this asset higher, then you might want to use that as your estimate. So the next leg is expected to go this way with further upside momentum coming from the pound against the dollar, more so backed by the weakness in the dollar. So it also seems like we are having a larger pattern playing the same thing. So even on the 4-hour chart, you can already see something similar happening here. So in this case, the market basically forming this U-turn here, which is another cup, and then the handle being here. So some further upside momentum is expected, but in the short run, a new target is 1.26360. So as we continue with the presentation, I'll be looking at a couple of more charts. Of course, we want to check and understand what's happening with the USD JPY. So with further weakness in the JPY, you can see the support that was broken. And of course, after the analysis yesterday, we speculated that the price would continue breaking further back downwards, especially after the failed support area here. So we continued seeing a drop here. And of course, today, the drop has accelerated. And with the yen taking advantage of the weak dollar, there's still more room for downside momentum. And of course, we are now trying to understand where will the support be. So as it seems, this area here seems like a nice support area. And if you check clearly, you'll notice how it was acting as support the first time, the second time here. And of course, if you go a little bit back, you'll notice that in this case, it was a resistance. So it seems to be a significant price level. And then from the H1 chart, this is how it looks like. So you can already see the market struggling to break below this area. So this is an area of interest to observe to see if there is further downside momentum. So if the market happens to break below this, then we go for further short selling positions. But then if we find support, then we might trade in the opposite direction. So for Euro USD, it's a continuous push towards the upper side. So from the daily chart, you can already see the momentum. I think my chart has just 2-minute lines. You don't want to have this in your chart. So if you're a beginner trader and you have been doing your analysis and you have just 2-minute lines on your chart, it's always advisable to remove them, re-enter your template, And of course, once you do that, then you start looking at the key price level as at that moment, thereby removing accumulated bias from your area analysis. So clearly, this is the highest price swing we have seen on the daily chart. Market hitting this area and back, and then this area and back, this area and back. And now that we are seeing the strong momentum happening in Euro USD, then it makes sense that we identify that as a confluence level, which kind of falls along these lines. So we had this particular trend line, and the market seems to be headed back there. So after the big break, so I remember having this on my chart, where on the daily, the Euro USD was trading along this channel, broke towards the lower side and is now coming back. So in this case, if you go to a smaller time frame, such as the 4-hour chart, and then you zoom out, then you see the same continuous theme of what may look like a cup and handle formation, and the market may make a run for 1.10302 as a new target with a continuous bullish momentum. So in this case, we already have a breakout towards the upper side. So in this case, if you are analyzing on the 1-hour chart, then you know what this means. So this basically means a market that was trading below broke out towards the upper side, pulled back, and then continued, which basically means that the market is making a run for the next resistance, which seems to be at 1.10302. So as for USD CAD, it's the same story. Dollar continuously losing to the Canadian dollar, but then this morning it's attempting to make a recovery. And if you're using a shorter time frame, you'll notice that there is some form of resistance here. So if you're trading the weak dollar, then this is something you might want to consider. So as the market struggles to go up in an environment where the dollar is really weak, then this becomes an area of interest following the number of times the market has rejected these levels. So first time, second time here, we have our third time here, and now the market is headed back to the same trend line. So in this case, the area of interest is watching the price action around this area, anticipating a potential reversal. Let's say the market rallies, gets to this point, fails to break, and eventually drops back downwards. So this might be a trading idea that you want to consider and research to see if it might work for you. So as for gold, I remember mentioning yesterday that this is an area of interest to check for potential entry by buyers. So we had the first candlestick, which did not play out as expected. After the first green candlestick, we saw the market breaking down lower on the very next one, and price kept going downwards. However, at some point in the day, we had these 3 green candlesticks indicating a very strong entry by buyers. Then from here, you can see the acceleration of price, which went all the way up. And this morning, we managed to reach a high that we saw last Friday. So now, after getting to this price level, notice how the market is struggling to break that area here. And of course, there's still more room for upside. The target remains the same, $2,008 per ounce of gold. So in this case, monitoring this area as a key interest area of interest, which is 1993 price level, we're looking for either of two things: market conclusively breaking above 1993, or finding resistance and starting to pull back downwards. So in this case, there seems to be some really good demand happening in gold. It hasn't changed much. If you look at the lows, they are consistently getting higher, save for this one that went lower than the previous one. But then for highs, if we happen to see a higher high, then the assumption is that the trend might be very strong, and we could be seeing the price of gold heading higher to 2008. So these are key area to monitor and see whether market breaks above 1993. So for those who are not very conversant with the price action, when we talk of the market breaking a level, it basically means candlesticks opening and closing above the trend line. So if you see the candlestick going above 1993 and then closing below, that's not a break. Opening, moving higher, and then closing below, it's not a break. So you want to see a candlestick that closes way above the trend line, which now confirms the thesis for bullish momentum. So that's the case I'm talking about, and it looks like it might happen in the next 1 hour or so. So AUD USD, one of the strongest pairs in the market right now, has completely bounced off this bottom of around 0.62875. You can see the strong rally that followed last month. And of course, this month we started with bearish momentum, but then market made a surprise run. Then we broke the resistance here and we are on course for yet another new leg. So there's still more room for upside for AUD/USD. So any form of pullback might represent a potential entry opportunity. For instance, the last 3 hours, you can see there was these 3 red candlesticks. But then in the last 1 hour, it seems like the bulls are entering it again, trying to drive the prices higher. So US equities last night, they managed to hit a top and started showing signs of recovery. And this is the Nasdaq. So yesterday we saw the market doing this, and this was an indication that sellers are attempting to enter this market. So towards midnight, we saw the market creeping higher, especially during the Sydney session. But then as we saw the Tokyo session starting, you can already see the bearish momentum happening again. And this is an indication of weakness and entry by sellers. So if you look at the 1-hour chart, you can see that momentum is now starting to build, but then it's building towards the lower side. So notice the relative size of the candlesticks, the green ones. So we had like 6 hours of the market going up, and now in about 4 candlesticks, the market has erased the price action of 6 candlesticks, which indicates a potential reversal, and we could be seeing the prices dropping for the day. So my speculation for US equity indices is a drop as we proceed into the London session. So it's a similar thing for the Dow, though the Dow seemed to be the strongest, especially after the big rally towards the end of the day yesterday. But then from the 15 minutes chart, this is what we are seeing. So key interest is what was happening around midnight. So around midnight, we saw the prices showing some weakness here with a sharp drop on the 15 minutes chart. Then cross the Sydney session, a slight movement up, but then you can see momentum is basically coming back in the markets, and we are seeing the market attempting to go further downwards. So there's a likelihood that we could be seeing prices keeping going downwards. Of course, for the S&P 500, it's kind of similar. So we saw the market hitting this stopping pattern here. Then immediately after that, there was a huge drop in prices. So this was the huge drop. Market crept higher during the Sydney session. And of course, as we approach the London session, what we are currently witnessing is the market getting more activity towards the downside. And this could be a common theme for the day. So as for Brent oil, it was extremely positive yesterday. And this is similar to the Friday's price action. So we are seeing a very strong recovery in Brent oil prices. And these could be traders betting that the OPEC plus countries might consider going for further rate hikes, especially after the bearish momentum, which basically saw the price of oil dropping from a high of 92.5 to a low of around, in this case, 76.7 dollars per barrel. And this is roughly almost $20. So in this case, it was down 17%, and this was within a very short period of time. So if you count the number of weeks, this is like 4 weeks. But then if you extend all the way back, then it took only a couple of weeks for oil prices to move from 95 all the way down to 76, which is about $19 per barrel. So in this case, the huge drop might incentivize the OPEC plus countries to continue cutting oil output in order to stimulate oil prices higher. Remember, they make money when oil prices are higher. If they are lower, they don't make as much. So in this case, this trend line has already been broken. This is conclusive. So when I mentioned the breakout, now you can see it in play. So notice how the market found resistance here. Then also found resistance here. Also found resistance here. And now you can see that the market broke outside this particular trend line. And then another candle was opened and closed higher, indicating that the break is complete. And now what we are witnessing is the market going back, retesting this trend line, and now potentially jumping from that price level. So we could be seeing the price making a run for it. So if you observe these candlesticks at some point, we should be seeing some volatility in the day. So French 40 index also extremely bullish, managed to show some signs of bearish momentum. And this was past midnight, just before midnight. So some correlation, at some part of the day, there was this big spike, market moved back towards midnight, got here, moved back. And you can see the struggle that the market is unable to form higher highs. And then eventually there was this sharp drop. So clearly, if you are a trader who focuses on the French 40 index, then you know that this was basically a choking pattern where the market is basically choking out of volatility. And after that, what proceeded was a break towards the lower side. And of course, after the break, we can see the market attempting to go for a retest, but the weakness is already present. So now it makes more sense to look for short selling positions. So for the Euro 50 rolling index, it's similar with the French 40, so I expect some weaknesses here. What we are seeing with Bitcoin is a long struggle for the market to recover completely from the big sell-off that we saw last week. So sometimes we describe these as climbing a wall of worry. So whenever you see the market make a sharp drop and then struggle, take longer to recover, it's called climbing a wall of worry. And it basically can be gruesome, but if you know how to time the entries, then you can easily identify some nice trading opportunities. So in this case, the idea is to buy when price is close to the extreme lower prices, and then sell when it gets towards the upper side. So from the 15 minutes chart, this is how it looks like. So you're getting an opportunity on day one, day two, no opportunity on day three, some opportunity on day four, some opportunities on day five, and now the market is looking or attempting to test the lower side again. So that's it for the day. Thank you very much, guys. Let's see if there's any question that I may have missed. EU printing small candlesticks. Is there a major move on the way today? Yes, we said there's FOMC meeting minutes coming up at 10 p.m. So that's major news for the dollar. So what time will be the FOMC minutes be out? 10 p.m. How do you calculate pips when it comes to oil? They have the same value as gold. So if you're trading a full lot, it's $10. If you are trading, it's 0.1, it's basically $1, and 0.01 will be $0.1 per pip. We already checked AUDUSD. Can you get your community link? Fortunately, it's troublesome right now because Safaricom is suspending the use of Telegram, mainly due to some allegations about cheating in the current ongoing KCSE exams. Nvidia earnings today. Do we expect the Nasdaq to continue to rally? As I mentioned, I expect a strong rally in the Nasdaq if the earnings are better than expected. So it's not just because it's earnings day, it's the result of the earnings, which you cannot predict right now. So we have to wait until the announcement of the earnings, which will be after market close, which basically means 11 p.m. Hello, from Telegram, have you been sending signals? How will I apply that to my trading? I tried and I wasn't able to. So I am mixed up with the Telegram you're referring to. Yes, if you're on the FX Pesa official Telegram channel, you should be able to see some signals coming in from the team. The signals are provided by a third party. We do not generate those signals. So they basically come from a platform called Signal Center. I'm using my phone and there are currencies that I can't find. Are they unlocked by a certain amount of money? No. Even if you are trading an account with $5, you should be able to access all assets. So kindly go through the platform and add some more assets. I believe there is a way to add more assets. It should be available on display on one of the menus where you can see a list of assets available for trading. Click and hold on one and then select add. You're saying you can't find UT100 Z3. Z3 is the futures contract, so it basically expires after some time. So if you want to trade the cash index, then you should be looking for the roaring one, ROLL. So look for UT100 roll. This will be the cash index. But if you're looking for the futures, you should be looking for the new one. So UT100 Z3 is still available. It's expiring on 14th of December 2023. Will FOMC change the strength of the dollar? Yes, it has the potential. So it basically shares the details of the last Fed meeting. So you want to see how they voted, which members were pro holding interest rates level, how many members were pro, let's say, hiking interest rates or even cutting. I also want to see the final details of the reasons behind their decision last time, where they decided to hold interest rates steady. So once you get those final details, then you'll know whether the Fed members are more aggressive or whether they're taking a dovish stance on interest rates, and that should inform the direction of the dollar. So thank you very much, guys. Thank you for your time, and I hope to see you on the next session. So also remember, we have a very important event happening on the 24th, which is this Friday, where we are celebrating the 1 million milestone. So last year, we started a drive to drive financial literacy education through the country and at least touch 1 million lives. So we recently achieved this goal through our various activities, and this includes the reach that we get from our podcasts, the reach that we get from these webinar sessions, the physical sessions that we do with our FX Pesa academies, and of course, the financial literacy events and pips and branch events that we normally meet on Saturdays. So after doing all that, we've been able to hit the 1 million mark, and we will be celebrating with DJ Grouchy on this coming Friday. So make sure to check out our social media pages for the link to register. And once you register, purpose to attend, this will be in Nairobi. And hopefully everyone will get to meet other traders, network, and of course, enjoy the party.